What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Nourish with Renata podcast. Now, today I am so excited because I get to share with you a woman that I recently met, and we totally hit it off because we are so passionate about women's health and specifically about a very similar area of the body. So, when we were talking about this just a couple of weeks ago, it was like talking to an old friend. It was like someone that was totally in the same vibe. And that's why I wanted to bring her on because I really believe that women need to know more about their pelvic floor health. So I'm super excited. Welcome, Dr. Alyssa. How's it going?
Thank you. I'm doing good.
Awesome. So because this is maybe some people's first time getting to know you, I'd love for you to share a little bit about you and what it is that you do.
Absolutely. So I am a physical therapist, but I specialize in pelvic health. And basically, I help people move past bladder problems, bowel problems, core strength issues, and postpartum type conditions. So prolapse, leaky bladder, that kind of stuff. And we use a combination of exercise and other physical therapy techniques to help these symptoms get better so that people can live their life without worrying about their pelvises.
Yes, exactly.
And I am a mom. I have three girls, and that's really a big reason why I got into this field is I became a mom, and it kind of ignited this passion in me for working with other mothers, as well as like this sort of physical therapy can be life changing for people. They go from thinking they're broken, or they can't lift their child, or they're going to make their problem worse, or they are going to need a surgery, to feeling super empowered. And that's really what drew me into this field. I initially, out of PT school, thought I would be a pediatric PT and work with babies and kids. But life led me another way, and I'm so glad. It's not anything I ever thought I would specialize in, but now that I'm in it, I would never go back.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's just a little background about me. But yeah, same as you, and why we connected so strongly was I love women's health, and it's so important to prioritize our own health as women and as mothers. And yeah, I just can't say enough good things about what you do as well.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. So I love how you mentioned the way that you really got into this specific niche was based upon your own experience. So did something really like pivotal happen during that time?
Not really. Like, my first birth was pretty straightforward. And I will say I was fairly young, but I was in physical therapy school. So I think that's what kind of influenced me from being so strong minded to go into pediatrics versus, oh, maybe I could work with other moms and help them. But yeah, after my first birth, everything was pretty normal. And yeah, I kind of got the taste of like, oh my gosh, like women are really cool, let me help them.
So I love that because I think, for both of us, it's been a really interesting journey to get to the places that we're at now. And what I want to really focus on for you is many women think that some of their pelvic floor issues are quote unquote normal, is what I would say.
Yeah.
However, when I hear these things happening or women talking about and commiserating with each other about a leaky bladder problem or something similar, I am like, oh, guys, like this is not normal. It might be common, but you don't have to live with it. So, what might be
Yes.
some common things that women may be experiencing that actually can be an indication of a pelvic floor issue?
Great question. So, some of the most common things that I've noticed, and they happen after giving birth or even during the pregnancy, but there are also people out there who experience these never having been pregnant. So, if that is someone listening in too, like, you're not alone in that. It does happen to people who have never had babies as well. But the big ones are bladder leaks. So, that is like leaking a little bit of pee when you laugh or sneeze or cough or move or go to work out, or jump. Another one is feeling like back pain, pelvic pain. A lot of moms I talk to, they're like, oh yeah, but I've had 3 kids. Like, isn't that just normal? And it's really not. Um, Another one is feeling pressure in the pelvis. So kind of feeling different down below after giving birth. And a lot of moms think like, oh, well, I've had babies. This is just my new normal. And that can actually be a sign that maybe your muscles need a little bit of help. Um, those are probably the top three. Another big one I would say is the whole diastasis recti, which is
Yes.
kind of the separating of the abdominals along the middle. And that's something that can definitely be addressed with exercise and the physical therapy techniques as well. But here's the deal: going through pregnancy and birth are both wild experiences. So it's only natural that during that time when our bodies get pretty challenged by growing the baby and then giving birth to the baby, whether you had a vaginal birth or a C-section birth, it only makes sense to me that our muscles would kind of be like crying out for help afterwards due to all those changes. So, in a way, it is normal to experience those things, but for a time, we can get out of that symptom, whether it's the bladder or the core strength or another issue. We can absolutely move past that as we heal, and movement is a big way that can happen for moms.
I love that. I love how you pointed out those top three and an additional potential symptom that could be occurring for women. So, if that is happening to someone, how do you know if this is something that you can work on by yourself or it's
Mm,
time to get help from a professional such as yourself?
absolutely. I am a huge believer in feeling empowered and connected in your body and just moving your body. So if you're someone who has been prioritizing other things other than moving your body, there's nothing wrong in that. But if you feel ready to do that and you start on an exercise program and you're still dealing with these symptoms, even though you're feeling stronger and faster and some of those other things that come just by working out, that would be a time to seek professional help. Or pain, any pain, you probably need a little bit of professional guidance to like get through some of those like muscle problems that are happening.
Yeah, I'm always curious about timing because I think that for many women postpartum, for instance, there's a lot going on, as we both know. You're looking after a whole new human, your body's trying to
Yes.
heal, you're trying to sleep where you can and eat where you can. So
Yeah.
in that postpartum specifically, is there a time frame that women should be cognizant of if they're not feeling any change in either the diastasis recti or in their pelvic floor health? Is there a certain time that
Yes.
you would recommend to seek help at that time?
I really believe whenever a mom feels ready to get moving, that's the time. So
Mm.
some moms come to me for the physical therapy postpartum as early as 4 weeks or six
Oh,
weeks.
yeah.
Others, that's too early,
Mm.
and so I do believe that early intervention and some of those things is super helpful. So if we can catch a problem quickly and start addressing it early, that's really helpful. But if we don't, it's never too late. So I
Mm.
see moms, maybe they really struggled with feeding the baby and sleep deprivation, and they don't come in until 6 months or a year postpartum. And that is fine because honestly, your body, the basics of your body's functions are going to always win. So nourishment, sleep, hormone health, emotional health, like all of these things might be taking priority over your pelvic floor issues. And so whenever we can kind of shift to be like, okay, I'm ready to address these other problems, then that's fine. So I
Mm.
guess the long-winded answer would be whenever a mom feels like, okay, I can do this, that's the time I think they should be reaching out. And it's going to be different for each person. It's going to be different for each birth, even in the same person. So,
Yeah.
after my first kid, maybe I was ready at 6 weeks to kind of start exercising and getting back in my groove. But after my third, like, whoo, life was a lot different. So I was maybe not ready until 3 months or 6 months. So there's no guilt or no shame in when you start this journey. It's all based on you and your
Yeah.
body.
I love that. And I love how you said too, number one, it's based upon how you specifically feel. Like we need to be connected
Yes.
enough to our bodies to understand that we have our basic needs taken care of first. Obviously,
Yes.
like sleeping and eating and all the things, and then
Yes.
being able to reach out to someone for help. And the second thing that I really want to emphasize is it's never too late. So
Never too late.
yes, even if it's been 8 years, for instance, since you had your kid, like it's never too late.
Never too late. Even if it's been 13 years,
Yeah,
even if
yeah,
it's been 20 years.
yeah.
Like there's more often than not, even when I meet with a person who's been dealing with pelvic floor issues since their birth for a really long time, they still make improvements. So
Yes.
the body is really intuitive, and it's very powerful when we start to ask changes of it. And so I think a lot of moms would be surprised, like if you start now, even though you feel like it's too late, like you will see good changes in your pelvic floor health.
I love that. Okay, so I want to ask you questions about a couple of things that number one, I've seen on your Instagram, which is very
Okay.
important because you have the best Instagram reels. They're so funny and it
Thank
just
you.
brings such a lightheartedness to what could potentially be, a kind of a scary and vulnerable medical issue. So I love what you're
Yeah.
doing there.
Thank
And that
you.
is around Kegels.
Oh yes. Okay.
So we got to talk about Kegels because when we think about pelvic floor health, I think most women jump to Kegels, right? Like I
Yeah.
just got to do Kegels at home, all the
Right.
things. Okay. So just in case anyone's not heard about what that is, can you explain really quick what it is?
Yeah. So the ability to do a Kegel is basically closing and lifting those pelvic floor muscles with a contraction. And for us, it kind of feels like things are tightening up down below. It might also feel like you're stopping the stream of urine. And that's a good sign of muscle control or even strength and kind of coordination if you can do that Kegel. However, I feel like our medical system has kind of like overblown the Kegel to the point of like you go to your doctor and you tell them you're having some problems and you get handed a paper that tells you about Kegels. And for me, that's such a disservice because those muscles do so much more than just that Kegel action. So when we're up on our feet, the pelvic floor is always holding us, and it's a different type of muscle work than the Kegel contraction is. And so, if you're someone who's been doing the Kegels and you're not seeing results, you're still dealing with those symptoms, it goes way beyond that, what I can help you with or what a pelvic floor therapist can help you with. And that's because our body, works together as this like system, and the pelvic floor needs help from other things, maybe the hip muscles or the glute muscles, or there may be a postural component that's not quite right, that's kind of setting your pelvic floor up to have struggles. And so a pelvic floor therapist can kind of help you nitpick all of those reasons and get down to the bottom of why my pelvic floor is failing or struggling. So Kegels are not, I would say, like a death sentence for your pelvic floor. However, if you're trying them and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, I can't feel what's happening, or you've done them and you're not seeing any difference, it just is way beyond the Kegel.
Right. Yeah. And it's not a magic cure. And I feel like sometimes
It's
people
not.
treat it like that.
Yeah. I tease like, if Kegels worked, I wouldn't have a job. Like there'd be no need for me. If people could just do their Kegels and be magically okay. But
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah, it's so much more than Kegels. And obviously that's something that I think not many people realize, which is why I really wanted to emphasize that today.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for asking that. I love that
Yeah.
question.
Now, the other thing I wanted to ask about, because literally last night I was hanging out with a bunch of mom friends and we talked about this earlier, bladder leaking.
Yes.
So many women are like, oh, yeah, I coughed, I sneezed, I laughed too hard, I bent down to pick up something off the floor, and I peed a little. And
Yeah.
we joke about it, we commiserate about it at times. And I really want to emphasize as well that this might be common, but it's not normal. And
Okay.
so I really want to get your opinion here and perhaps like a couple of tips. If a woman
Yes.
is feeling this on a regular basis, let's say, what's something they can do to help them rectify the issue and possibly even, do something positive before coming in to see you? And obviously, we want people to come in and see you too.
Yes, definitely. So the whole joking about the bladder leaking too is just it seems pretty rampant, like, oh, haha, I can't do that. Or, haha, you don't want me in your workout class or those kind of things. And I feel like it's such a disservice to women to just continue to joke about these things because a lot of times people have been told just to wait and it will get better. And it more often than not, it doesn't go away. It just kind of either hangs around or maybe kind of ebbs and flows, gets a little better and then a little worse. But some of my top tips are uh, my first one is going to be about breathing. So sometimes leaks for the bladder, or even like accidentally leaking gas, like not controlling gas, can be due to a pressure mismanagement in the abdomen and in the pelvis. And so, one of the quick ways to address that is paying attention to your breathing as you're moving. If you notice you are kind of like holding your breath as you go to pick things up or go to get up out of the bed or off the couch. One easy way to retrain your brain from that is to actively blow out as you're moving. So, what that does is blowing will kind of um, give your pelvic floor more of a chance to lift and hold you. So next time you lift the car seat or pick up your children or get up from the floor, try to actively blow and see if that makes a difference. If
Mm.
if you see improvement in your bladder, hey, like you might be onto something there. My second tip is back to the Kegels, and that is don't Kegel or tighten up your core and pelvic floor with every little movement you make. And that can seem counterintuitive, but there are cases, many cases that I've seen that the pelvic floor is struggling to know what to do when. And so we're thinking like, oh, let me just keep my core tight. Let me activate my core and just hold it in kind of all day. And maybe that's because I want to feel more secure in my muscles, but maybe I kind of want my belly to feel flatter and that kind of thing too. But when we're constantly holding tension and activating those muscles as we move through our day, we're interrupting the pelvic floor's normal kind of ebb and flow and movement as we move. So I would say, don't suck it in. Stop, like just let it go
Like
is one
Elsa
of my
said.
big cues. Yeah, exactly. Because if the pelvic floor should be kind of bouncy and springy like a trampoline, and if we're always tensing that trampoline and pulling it really tight, we're kind of we're kind of like throwing off the vibe of what it should be doing.
Mm.
Okay, so we've got the breathing, we've got the don't Kegel yourself to death. And then my third tip is kind of funny, but I talk to this with pretty much everyone who comes to see me. And that is don't underestimate the power of having regular bowel movements. Because if you are backed up, if you are constipated, if you're not going regularly, there's all sorts of reasons that could occur. And there's all sorts of parts of your body that could affect, like I'm sure you know about like the hormones and that kind of thing. But if you always have, you know, poo in the pelvis, that is throwing off how your muscles feel. So we need to be emptying every day. Um,
Yes.
and if you're not, there's ways to address that with increasing our water intake because the colon does need a lot of water to try to help flush things through or change the fibers you're eating. So maybe add some extra fruits and veggies, add chia seeds or flax seeds, or a supplement if needed. But yeah, I feel like constipation is one of those like underlying like contributors to a lot of pelvic floor issues with moms, but those are probably my top three, and I could go on. But if you're thinking at home like I need to get my pelvic floor on point, start with those three. And if you're not seeing changes, or maybe you got a little bit of change but you're still struggling, like then I would seek out a professional to get some help. And it might be simple as just doing a couple targeted exercises to change how your muscles are moving, since you've already done this kind of like front work that we're talking about today.
I love those tips. I think they're so helpful. And I gotta shout out to point number 3, because
Yes,
I talk about constipation all the time.
I'm sure you do. It's so, I mean, honestly, it's so underrated, the power of having regular bowel movements.
Yes,
It
100%.
really is.
Yeah. And what's really interesting too is so many women just accept constipation as a quote
Yeah.
unquote normal thing to happen. So we gotta
Yes.
stop doing this thing where we just say, oh, well, that's normal. Oh, well, that's normal. You don't have to live with pelvic floor pain or
Yeah,
issues. There are ways to heal your body.
absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so last question for you. This has been such a valuable episode. So thank you so much for sharing all of those tips. My last question for you would be, what are your words of wisdom for a woman that is hearing all these symptoms, is thinking to herself, oh, that's me. Like I'm
Mm,
feeling those bladder leaks. I'm feeling like I'm pulling everything in all the time, trying to get control, but it's not helping. I have the constipation. I'm having all these issues. And
mhm,
she may not necessarily feel comfortable yet
mm,
reaching out, because this, like we talked about earlier, can be a really vulnerable thing to seek help for. I'd love
absolutely.
for your words of wisdom for her so that she can reach out to someone like yourself and get the help she needs to feel better and to live her best
Yes.
life.
Okay, so two things come to mind. And the first is that pelvic floor issues can feel very isolating. It's something that sometimes even the closest of friends don't feel comfortable talking about. And so, right off the bat, you're not alone
Mm.
if you're dealing with these things. Even if your friends or your community is not talking about it, I guarantee you there's someone dealing with the same things you are. And kind of on that same note, you're not broken. There's nothing you've done wrong. There's nothing you've done to put yourself in this position. So we kind of have to get comfortable with saying, this is where I am now, and I'm not going to be like this forever, instead of really feeling down about, I'm the only one dealing with this. It's going to be like this forever, that kind of thing. I'm a big believer in the power of positive thinking and like what our mindset does to us. So, especially as moms, when we are focusing on so many other people, those things are, I feel like, pretty powerful for our not only mental, emotional health, but like physical and pelvic health too. And then my second just piece of advice would be, there's so much information out on the internet today, social media, Google, pretty much everywhere, Facebook groups, pretty much everywhere you look, you can find some sort of little nugget or tidbit about pelvic health. And it can be kind of scary. It can be overwhelming. And so don't stay in that scared zone. Take baby steps towards doing something to improve your physical health. And I love movement for this. It could be as simple as starting walking. I'm going to go on a 5-minute walk today. And then later this week, it'll be 10 minutes. And the next week, it'll be 15. So any movement that feels safe to you is going to help. On the same note, I firmly believe there's no movement that should be automatically off limits to us as moms dealing with pelvic floor issues. I really don't think that just by doing a sit up, you're going to break your core and make your diastasis worse. I really don't believe that if you pick up your child, you're going to make your prolapse so much worse that, you can't go back. So that is one thing I feel like being online is kind of a hindrance, because we see all these people putting out information of, don't do this or you're going to hurt your core, or don't do this or you're going to make this worse. And I really want moms to feel like they can tune into their body and know what they're feeling. And so if you do a movement such as a new workout that you found and you feel bladder leaks or the strong sudden urge to go pee, that would be a reason that that exercise might not be right for you, and you can step it down instead of going in and completing that movement. Another one would be pain. So if an exercise causes you back pain, abdomen pain, pelvic pain, anything like that, that might not be the move for you. If an exercise causes more pressure in your vagina or in your pelvis, that might not be the right move for you, or you might just need to tweak how you're doing it. So don't be scared of moving because you have pelvic floor issues. Instead, get curious about what can I do that feels good to me and brings me joy and brings me, kind of that sensation of I've got this, and kind of lead with that.
I
you
love
know
that.
and then
Yeah.
when you get to a point where, okay, like now I need a little bit extra help, then you can find a pelvic floor PT. You could find a personal trainer who has certifications in prenatal and postpartum. You can find a Pilates instructor that's certified in prenatal and postpartum. So there's a lot of ways to help us address these issues. But staying scared and not moving is not one of the ways that it's gonna get better.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful because I really resonate with, and I think a lot of women resonate with the idea like, oh, if I have diastasis recti or if I have pelvic floor issues, that means I cannot
Yeah.
do something correct.
Yes.
But that's just
Yes.
not the
And
case.
it can be very intimidating to try to navigate this. So rather than being kind of frozen and saying, oh, I can't do that, let's get more curious and say, like, okay, what can I do that's not
Mm,
going to make me feel worse? And then before you know it, you'll be building upon those movements that you can do.
I love that. So I got to also shout out the fact that in your practice, you do have a Pilates instructor that comes in, which is wonderful. You and I both love Pilates so much.
Yes. Yes. So Kate is our instructor and she comes and teaches a small group class. And it's pretty much all women who are either pregnant or postpartum. So it's really fun. And it's a fun way to just get moving and feel stronger. And she's really helpful at like connecting the class with movements that tie in the breathing and the core and the pelvic floor. So it's super fun.
I love that. So that's another incredible benefit of seeking you out specifically. And then you also have the Katie Mamas meetup, which occurs every month.
Yes. Yes. So we do a monthly, basically coffee date. And this is open to everyone. It's free. You can bring your children. I usually post those on social media and to my email list. So you can follow my either Instagram or Facebook page at West Pelvic Wellness to stay updated. But yeah, those are just kind of fun. Come meet other moms. Sometimes I'll talk about a pelvic health topic, or we might have another local like women's health professional come and share briefly, but it's mostly about the social get to meet other moms and hang out kind of thing. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's once a month.
I love that. And the next one I believe is April 19th.
Yes, yes it
Awesome.
is.
Yeah. So that's really important too, because just like you said, community is the one thing we can do to help to prevent women feeling isolated with any of the things that they might be going through. And so I love that you're
Absolutely.
holding space for that.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so let everyone know once again, how can they get a hold of you if they have questions or want to seek out your services?
So our website is westpelvicwellness.com, and we have several resources on there for you. You can fill out the contact form, which goes to our email, and then we'll reach out to you. We also have a free pelvic floor health quiz on our website. So you can go and answer the questions and then get your results about how your pelvic health scores and if you need some extra help from a professional. And then our social media at West Pelvic Wellness on both Instagram and Facebook. I try to post like funny stuff because I love to laugh, and just kind of useful like mom life and pelvic health tips. And so you can always comment on our posts or DM us there. But yeah, we love to connect with you. We also offer free phone consultations. So if you're wondering if it's right to work with us and you're not quite ready to book a session yet, you can always schedule that. And I would do that like through the website too. But yeah,
Awesome.
come hang out at our mama meetup.
Yeah.
Come connect with us, and we'll take care of you and your pelvic floor.
I mean, it's a win-win, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much for coming on the podcast. I loved all of the tips that you've shared, and I think it's going to be so valuable for so many women. So definitely, guys, make sure to share this episode out with another mom friend, another woman in your life. I really believe this is how we start to shift the narrative around women's pelvic floor health. We don't just have to keep saying like, oh, all these things happen and they're normal. They're not normal. We don't have to
Yes.
live like that. And there's ways that you can help yourself and others to heal. So make sure to share the episode out. Follow Dr. Alyssa on all her social media, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.